Well, it's that time when we call out to California and we call upon the expertise that is Michael Snyder as we take a look at some of the movies that are coming out this week. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Alex, and it is Oscar weekend in our neck of the woods, and maybe yours too. Who knows when you're listening? But,
well, you're in San Francisco. It's Oscar time in L.A. where you aren't. So.
I know. This is not like me to be up here by the bay when the Golden Statuette is being given out, but I thought I would take a little break from the Hollywood madness.
How much is the rental on your apartment now? $3,000, $4,000 a month?
Well, a median in San Francisco for a one-bedroom is $3,500. I swear to God.
Are you kidding me? Oh, man.
No. It's crazy. People are building little hutches and renting them for $5,000 a month. And, the tech bros and, pardon me, the tech hoes as well, the women that flock to the nerds with their profligate money and what have you, are clogging up the city streets, no lie, only to be occasionally mixed with the homeless and the panhandlers.
Do they realize how hated they are in San Francisco?
I don't know. It's like Mumbai by the Bay, though. What with the class disparity? No kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, let's get off that because I want to talk about some new movies, and it's one of those weird weekends. It is Oscar weekend when we celebrate ostensibly the best in cinema, and yet we've got some real hilarious choices to check out. Let's put it this way. Gods of Egypt, which is maybe the biggest high-profile release this weekend, is campy and loaded with computer-generated green screen action, but it's silly to the point of being fairly entertaining. Gods and Monsters quasi-epic. It is not going to win any awards unless we're talking next year's Razzie Awards. But let's go forward here. It's an Australian production directed by an Aussie filmmaker named Alex Proyas, who I really like.
He did Dark City.
Dark City, which I love, 1998. He also directed the first Crow movie in 94. He also did Will Smith's weak-ass adaptation of Asimov's I, Robot. But let's face facts. The guy knows how to make a visual treat. And there's a perpetual modern digital animation thing going on here. And it reminded me of nothing more than the cool and corny Ray Harryhausen stop-motion fantasy movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, especially the Sinbad movies and Clash of the Titans. Those are films that featured Greek and Roman deities and heroes, and this changes things to Egypt and a mythic time before all that biblical Ten Commandments stuff went down, when the gods of the Egyptian pantheon, a rather tall and superpowered and transformable bunch, including Osiris and Ra and Horus and all these guys. They ruled over worshipful and, I guess, physically smaller humans, and the effects worked beautifully in that regard with the smaller human beings and the big god leader types. Anyway, the cast playing these titular gods of Europe include, are you ready? Gerald Butler as the villainous Set, who apparently came from the Scottish neighborhood in Cairo, maybe Glasgow on the Nile. I mean, nice accent, Jerry. Can't believe that Set sounds like he's about to get involved in a punch-up after being up at the pub. And Game of Thrones Nikolai Coster-Waldau, the guy who plays Jaime Lannister. Here he's Set's nephew and rival for the throne, Horus. And Horus's dad, Osiris, is played by another Aussie, Brian Brown. I guess Proyas thought, I'm going to populate this with my fellow countrymen. Brian Brown's here. And Granddad Ra, the sun god, is played by one more Australian actor, a great one, a slumming Oscar winner, Geoffrey Rush. Hashtag Egyptian gods so white, just in time for the Academy Awards. I mean, the earnest young human that teams up with Horus against Set is a resident of what I assume ancient Cairo, and also played by an obviously white actor, Brenton Thwaites. I just want to remind anyone who goes to see this bargain matinee special, again, that I enjoyed, that, Egyptian lives matter. All right, anyway, it's total bargain matinee.
At least when they did the Ten Commandments, Yul Brynner was, kind of ethnic of sorts, because he had some Asian in him.
He's ethnic-ish. Chadwick Boseman, the guy who played Jackie Robinson, fine, fantastic African-American actor, does play Thoth in this thing. So it's not completely whitewashed. And I guess the actual Egyptians, for the most part, seem of a darker variety. But, oh, my God. And it's funny. It's funny. It's campy. It's kind of crazy. And visually, it's a treat. It's a comic book, but there you go. Boy, that's a weak-ass recommendation, but there you have it. Again, bargain matinee. Or if you have a setup like you do at home, something you might want to laugh over on a Saturday night on the 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So, 999. I love a heist film, but 999, which is a new movie with a promising concept that involves bank jobs and a solid director and a remarkable cast, doesn't quite make the big score. Still, I was kind of engaged and occasionally excited by what was on the screen at any given moment. It's a willfully brutal, contemporary urban crime drama that pits the police of varying moral codes against the Russian mob. It also brings together this really enticing collection of actors of really different pedigrees, and with some of them acting very much against type. For instance, imagine Kate Winslet, the proper British English Rose, Kate Winslet, as Irina, a tough-talking Russian crime boss lady. I mean, really, and weird. And 999, which refers to 999, the police code for officer down, and that becomes integral to the plot. This team's the down-home Norman Reedus, that's right, The Walking Dead's indomitable Daryl, with none other than Oscar-level British actor Chiwetel Ejiofor. There's a couple of cops who are on the shady side of the big city streets. They're up against Woody Harrelson, a slovenly but very adept and honorable detective whose earnest brother is a rookie cop played by Casey Affleck. And that guy is being set up as a patsy by less than noble colleagues, including Aaron Paul, Clifton Collins Jr., and so forth. The other women in the cast besides Winslet include the new Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, and the blonde Aussie ingenue Teresa Palmer with dark hair and a working-class American accent. It's great fun to see these really disparate performers in some project like this. And there's a ton of action and double crosses and histrionics. And with director John Hillcoat, another Australian who brought us a couple of truly fine movies, Lawless and The Road, tries to keep all the plates spinning, but maybe my expectations were too high, because ultimately the trick doesn't completely satisfy. Maybe because I didn't really invest in the characters I was supposed to care about, and yeah, a few plates get broken over the course of the film. Nonetheless, I mean, this is not a bad movie. There are positive things to say about it. I wouldn't rush out to see it, but there you have it, 999. Okay, Eddie the Eagle, charming, uplifting, often a little too cute for its own good, and kind of flimsy if you look too hard at it. Eddie the Eagle is a model, feel-good, underdog against the odds sports movie inspired by real events and a real but unlikely athlete, Michael Eddie Edwards, who, spoiler alert, was one of the biggest stories to emerge from the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics. He was a young British guy from a working-class background who always had this unrealistic dream of becoming an Olympic competitor. But his chosen event was a winter sport that hadn't seen an entrant from Great Britain in decades, ski jumping. I mean, who even skis in the UK, let alone ski jumps? I mean, where do you find a slope to navigate? Not in the middle of London. Anyway, no matter. The ever-optimistic Eddie, who dealt with disabilities as a kid and has to overcome the British Olympic Committee's innate class system to make the team, is totally undaunted. He goes to Garmisch in the Bavarian Alps, by the way, where my brother lives currently, and actually convinces a retired bad boy, formerly of the American national ski team, to coach him. And then the fun begins. It's kind of directed in lively fashion by a guy named Dexter Fletcher. I'm not familiar with his work, but the movie's produced by Matthew Vaughn, who directed Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, Layer Cake, one of my favorite British crime dramas, and Kingsman: The Secret Service, and it has a little of his kinetic swagger in the training and competition scenes. Kind of cool to be at the top of the ski jump and go down. Plus, he's got Taron Egerton, who was his young lead in Kingsman as the immensely likable and sometimes hapless Eddie, and ever magnetic and amusing Hugh Jackman, Wolverine in the X-Men films, as we all know, is the ne'er-do-well ski jump vet and coach Bronson Peary, plus Christopher Walken as an aging ski jump guru who coached Peary. Considering what happened at the Olympics, you got to wonder about such things as celebrating mediocrity and, awards for participation that school kids get for little league teams. I mean, Remember, this is inspired by real events and a real person, but I promise you, the characters and incidents were invented for the sake of the movie, lots of them. And the schmaltz, which is either true or amped up, could have sunk it, and yet, it's easy to take a leap with this thing. Eddie the Eagle, fun, feel-good stuff. Again, not great filmmaking. Okay, here's a movie I can unconditionally recommend, especially if you're interested in it, The Last Man on the Moon. It is a biographically skewed documentary about Apollo astronaut Eugene Cernan, who got on the moon in 1972. And, ever since then, he's had the distinction of being the last human being up there. And it kind of brings the personal and the cosmic together in a truly inspiring chunk of history. And it made me, and should make you, long for a time when this sort of scientific aspiration and technological achievement was fueled by bravery and fearlessness and recklessness and took humans into space, the heavens. A guy left footprints on the moon, more than one. This was the last of them, and we hear about his life after returning to Earth, and it makes you think, wow, when are we going to have that kind of leap, that kind of courage, and that kind of capability, and pull together and do something like this again? The Last Man on the Moon, good stuff, directed and written by a guy named Mark Craig. Thumbs up, both thumbs up for that. So what do you got going on, buddy?
Nothing. I went and saw, what was it, Deadpool.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a very amusing, a fun picture. Just really fun, I
mean, from the get-go, the opening credits are hilarious.
Yeah, and Girlfriend, who usually, is not going to be that hot about this stuff, just loved this film. Just was crazy about it. So it's very good. It's very good.
They did a good job, and Ryan Reynolds really redeems himself after having been the star of a DC superhero film, Green Lantern. On the Marvel side, he nailed it, and I hear they're going to be adding rougher content to future movies of this ilk, including the upcoming Batman versus Superman, which will have a hard R director's rating on the director's cut. So,
okay, well, I'm not exactly waiting for that picture, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because most of the DC stuff doesn't work on film. It works on TV. But it's two entirely different divisions of DC controlling each. And they've just been very bad where the movies are concerned. And now what they're trying to do with Batman versus Superman is to kind of create a kind of Marvel universe for their movies. And, it's going to move on to more pictures with more people added to it. And then the Justice League instead of the Avengers, So I think they're just kind of going in some really goofy directions.
Well, they are establishing the idea of a multiverse, like sort of simultaneously existing but different universes by having, I think they're going to have the Flash character on TV.
Yeah, but that's the TV. I'm talking about the movie stuff. The movie stuff is always, I think the DC movie stuff has always been mediocre.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The suggestion that there is a world in the TV universe that they have where Superman exists, because he doesn't exist in the Flash, Green Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow world. So that's going to be an interesting way to approach some of their properties. Yeah. But again, that's TV. You're right.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying that their movies have never, been amazing, and I'm not expecting much out of Batman versus Superman. Plus, everybody says it. If Superman would have a fight with Batman, Superman would win hands down.
Hey, I got one word for you, buddy. Kryptonite.
Oh, well, yeah, you got that.
Hey, the other thing is I do hear Suicide Squad, which is also part of this current build of the DC movie universe, might be good, but who knows till we see them. Yeah,
Suicide Squad looks interesting. We'll have to see if it is. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
Tell them where they can find you.
On Twitter, I'm at Culture Blaster, one word. Follow me there if you can. And on Facebook, Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. Like it. Tune in to Alex and yours truly as we chat, read articles. But, come back next week, too.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Much appreciated. And GABNet continues.